Yo, nerds, this is Distinct, and we're just doing a word test. Sword claims uh, that the full cannon call could be viable for some countries in the EU4. So we're gonna put that to the test. We're testing it with Tech 32. He actually claimed that it kills 40k in the first day of the fire. Like the very first fire phase, we're gonna assume he means dice 9. Kills 40k. Now I very much doubt but whatever, we're just gonna test it out. So we set it up perfectly. We have Tech 32. We're testing Tech 32. If it's true for Tech 32, let's say if it's falsified at Tech 32, then it's definitely falsified at other techs. We test it with Great Britain, which theoretically should be the best country for it in the mod, along with Rajput. We could also test Spain, but in principle, the reason why is because they have 5% discipline and 30% fire damage. Now, we're taking every single kill casualty possible modifier. The interesting thing with this strat is that it's all about kill casualties, and it completely, like, everything moral related is basically irrelevant. Now, the thing is, even if we kill everything on the front line, that doesn't necessarily mean like day one that we're going to win the battle. Interestingly, because of the zombie mechanic, first of all, and also just because of moral. Like, we might get wrecked in moral sort of regardless of what happens, because we're going to be taking damage during the shock phases, moral casualties, and we're constantly going to be taking moral casualties by the back row. So we'll have to see how exactly it translates. But this is an interesting idea. Like, if it actually is 40 kill casualties, and this tactic is probably effective, but I very much doubt that it's 40 kill casualties. I'm more likely than not, we're just messed up his things. But let's give it a test. So we have this discipline advisor. We have a discipline icon. Since 5% discipline is the best we can get from a religious perspective. We have Great Britain, the best country for it. We have the policies that are best suited for this: arctic combat, mercenary discipline, land fire damage, discipline. All my cannons are discipline. We have the cannons that deal the kill casualties. We are in the last era, thus we have artillery damage from back row thing. And we also picked every ID to make this strategy as efficient as possible. So quality for the 10% art and discipline, plutocratic, again self-explanatory. Is plutocratic actually the best one? 10% from back row, that's 5% extra damage. No, that is more efficient than... Oh yeah, because I also have 5% merc discipline in it. Innovativeness. Quantity, however, is not useful with this strategy. I mean, it might be useful overall with the strategy in terms of winning the battles, but in terms of dealing the maximum damage, there's better things than quantity. You get humanist for an extra policy, get offensive for fire damage and discipline, exploration for fire damage, administrative for merc discipline. And then we have one other possibility. There is nothing in aristocratic that interests us, nothing in defensive that interests us. So we can actually take one of these, because we can take kill casualties. We can get them from diplomatic. We have 3% discipline right here. So we can get that. I'd almost forgotten about that. That we can actually, like, quality or quantity does not help us for this strat. Like, it would help us overall for this strat, actually, but like just for the purpose of the test, it doesn't. So apart from that, we have 100% army professionalism for extra 10%. And there's no drilling on the mercs, but the drilling would not make the cannons better compared to non-mercs, because this way we can get more kill casualties with the merc discipline, since we can get 18% merc discipline. Okay, and I think that's pretty much everything. And we have Tech 32. Yeah. So we have everything that's correct. Okay, let's dissolve here. Tag Russia. Now I'll show you Russia. For Russia, we have the same tech. We have the drill infantry. I have a regular, I'm going to have my regular vanguard. I'm just going to put everything. We're going to fight in the grasslands here. That does give the defenders advantage, but we're not really interested in that. I'm going to make a 666 general. General leader 666. Oh, Tiffany Wittgenstein. It could also be like leader traits and ruler traits to make this better. You could get 10% artillery combat, but we'll just forget that. That's not something you can reliably get, so that can never be part of strategy. I gave Russia the. This is actually bugged out, the policy thing. It's I'll reload the game actually because I don't want this. But yeah, I have 20% art, 5 discipline, 15 thing. What you would normally get. Of course, if you know a country is doing this, you can try and counter it by getting the land fire damage reduction policy. But that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested to see how the regular builds would compare to each other. Let's take the discipline. Let's take. Oh, right. Can I get an advisor? I can't. But whatever. We'll just use the moral one. I have all my policy activated. I've taken my regular build, which only has 5% of fire damage reduction here. And I'm Russia, but with Swedish IDs, so I have 5% discipline reduction and nothing else to reduce. Okay, so this is like, I think most of the countries, they'll have 5% discipline versus the strat and nothing else. Actually, switch back to, no, I need to declare war, that's right. Yes. Let's go to tag Great Britain. Goes here. I think I set everything up. I'm going to save and reload after. Because like sometimes the tag switching does weird things. I don't want it doing weird things. There's no professionalism Russia, which is fair, I guess, for X. If I can say, like I'm listening to the stream of Sword on, that's why he was saying that this tactic is competitive. You know, Shade is still whispering. So leader 666. AI, save. Cannon front test, east clap. We're gonna wait for all of Russia to be on the province. Yes. Perfect. Now, to save again, we're gonna put the dice on 9 to start. So what's the thing again? Dice, combat dice. Combat dice, 9. Alright. Now we're gonna enjoy the show. Alright, 27,000. That's pretty good. 27k. Yeah, that's pretty fucking good. But look at our moral. Like, our moral just is gone. Our moral is absolutely, utterly fucking gone. Now, of course, there's more men there, so I could put in more men. But see, we also take a shit ton of kill casualties, even though because we have cannons on the front line, so obviously we take a massive amount of kill casualties. But okay, so we took like 27k. There's like 27k kill casualties versus 12k kill casualties. And we lost. Now, what I was saying is that even though this front will be quickly dead, every single one of them on the Russian front took a lot of moral. Actually, took a shit ton of moral kill casualties. Wait a second. He took like almost half. It took 4.56 moral casualty. And in terms of army strength, they took 688 kills per regiment for Russia. And on the other hand, the cannons on the Brit side, they lost way less. They lost 2.13 moral and 312 casualty. Like this. Okay, very exciting stuff. Oh, we actually did a lot of moral casualty as well. Even though we have nothing like in terms of improving our kill casualties, we could pass like and whatever. Okay. So day 1, day 2. We did 720 shock kill casualties somehow. That's actually decent kill casualties. It's because it's dice 9. 720 versus like 1700. Now we gotta look at the moral. 4.7. And here it's 3.24. Okay, that's crazy again. 4.72. 7.6. 3.24. 9.4 versus 6.4. Okay. 11k. But now the kill casualties are already much more similar. And this is because, like, look, 0 regiment strength. They got nothing. 0 regiment strength. They still have some moral, so they're still on the front line. And meanwhile, the other side is still hitting and dealing damage. That was just the back line dealing damage here, basically. Well, I mean, I guess they still dealt damage and died. So now we're at 0.5, 25, and 0. And on the other side, we're on we're on 321 and 418. Okay, so now we have another shock. So we can see the zombie thing happening is they are remaining on top of the But they still have moral right now. So 720 dealt, and here nothing was dealt. Almost no damage because only the backline is doing shock damage, so very little shock damage. You went to 3.11 and 406. However, we lost a bit more moral. Okay, now we finally reach 0. We took another big hit of casualties while we dealt nothing because of the zombie meta. Okay. So that's the interesting part is despite it hitting 0 moral, it still stays on. It's going to stay on for 12 days because of the zombie mechanic. And meanwhile, we took a lot of kill casualties during all these. We're going to have like way more phases where we just take casualties. Now finally, we're also gone and we don't have moral. Both are just zombieing each other. Both are just zombieing each other. We're not dealing any fucking damage because this is the first 12 days. So we're just doing nothing. Like people are like zombie line is shooting at zombie line because we're in the first 12 days, and the kill casualties were superior to the moral casualties. So this is like really interesting. Like as long as your kill casualties finish off your opponents in the first phase, this happens. But the question is, does it also happen in different phases? Because maybe it could happen that whenever your units reach regiment strength 0 before they reach moral, then the bug occurs. But it might just be that it's the first 12 days when you can't retreat. But it could also be a different mechanic, but that's much harder to test because how are you going to test that in different circumstances? Okay, whatever. Eventually it's going to reinforce. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here we go. We have a second thing that's noted, which is the defender bonus. Right? They both reinforced, but only one side took damage because the attacker shot the zombie line. Okay, so we have confirmation of the defender advantage. So when people are talking about the hidden defender advantage, this is what they're talking about. The targeting of the attacking on the day of the reinforcement, or when I mean reinforcement, I mean when the front line gets switched, is that it shoots the line that's retreated. And in this case, because that line was a zombie line, it did 0 kill casualties and also 0 moral casualties. On the other hand, this line took 2k damage. So now this line is already damaged. You can see it has less moral, less regiment strength, and this took nothing. It took moral damage, but that's just because it's already been like 12 days. That's just the behind 0.03 moral kill casualties to the front. Bam! Again, big numbers. Very favorable for this side. Actually, let's also compare the 5.34, 3.17. This time, okay, 19. Okay, soon my line will be dead. Now the interesting thing is, will my line switch instantly, yes or no? Or will it zombie as well? Meanwhile, the moral here is gone in this line. So this line will be, but look at this, it stays on the fucking front because it has 0.01. It's going to stay on this. So this is what I mean with there's no overkilling in this game. If you're unlucky like this can like lose you battles. If it's just like current moral 0.1, they're gonna stick and absorb an entire round of moral casualties. And meanwhile, this is actually winning. Somehow, the second row did much better than the first row. Right? Look at it. Current moral 0.01. It went to 0.00. They absorbed an entire hit of moral casualties. So sometimes, like, advantages in these games, like, they're very small. They can matter very much because of the way these war mechanics work. Okay. Okay, so here... Okay, both reach at the same time 0 moral and 0 regiment strength. Okay, so they instantly appear. But see, they took nothing, though. Again, they took nothing because of the hidden defender's advantage. Meanwhile, they take a lot of moral, but at this point, the moral damage is superior to the regiment damage, it looks like. Yeah. Alright. So the cannon stack did actually really well. The cannon stack did really well, especially if you consider that it was suffering the attacker penalty, which is again massive. Alright, Jar Jar, 3% discipline, go fuck yourself. It's utterly fucking massive. And if you don't understand this, like how it's easy fucking math. You're losing 1 day of combat. 1 day of combat. Okay, every time there's a reinforcement cycle. In the late game, like it's 7 to like 10 days. Of course, with dice 9, it's insane. If it happens on a dice 9, that you lose a dice 9, and you lose a day of fire, it's insane the amount you can lose. So there's, when you're thinking about a hidden defender's advantage, it's not just a static number, it's a range. It can go from a small amount, if you're losing like a 0 dice shock, to an insane amount if you're losing a 9 fire, like 9 fire face. Okay, so depending on just pure RNG, the hidden defender can be a tiny amount of an effective discipline advantage to an enormous amount. Right? In this fight, the hidden defender's advantage is probably like 20% discipline. Right? It's insane. So the amount of troops you would need to overcome this disadvantage, if you're unlucky, is enormous. Anyway, but of course we go always with some amount of averages. So that was very interesting. I think the Great British troops would have won the battle. Now, of course, the thing is you have to run like Merc cannons and have as many Merc cannons as you want. In EU4, you can't have many Mercs. So, like overall, and here I didn't even have quantity. So, let's try the same battle. Dice 5, but this time the Russians are the attackers. That will be more interesting. They have a big number advantage, right? So, we'll see. Okay, this actually got me pretty excited because they performed really well. Though I still like, comparatively, I think you can first, if you see your opponent doing this, you can just sort of switch it around in your policies to counter it. But you might just lose the moral fight. Of course, the longer the battle is, the better, because that initial zombie effect was extremely bad for the cannon stack. Whereas, the longer the battle is, there will no longer be a zombie effect. Right, so the zombie effect is very detrimental to the cannon stack. But the bigger the battle is, the less that effect becomes. Okay, so let's go to attack Russ. Attack Britain. AI. Alright. Tag Russia. We're just gonna bamboozle in. To be fair, also the Russia stack is just covered, so it's not optimal in terms of it's taking moral casualties every day on the reserves. But save, and let's try it like this. I also need to put my combat dice on. So we'll put it on combat dice 5, and we have a 6/6 here. Wait a second. There's a river here. Tag leader 6/6/5. What am I supposed? Okay, this way I don't have. Of course, like moral-wise, no army tradition. It's Great Britain, not very good country for this. I have bad traditions. I don't have quantity. Like, I also have max professionalism. That helps. My Russia here doesn't have their Streltsies in the battle. Right, here we have army tradition. So forget about the moral. Because I was thinking all the kill casualties matter, but because this tactic might be battle-wise competitive, even though I don't see how you're gonna win any wars doing this nonsense. Like you're just gonna yeah, that's never gonna work. Like this like I can already tell this will not work to win wars. This will not win you wars, but it's still interesting. Also, from a commando perspective, is very bad. That's actually interesting. You start with 100. From a commander perspective, this is terrible. Even as a commander, this doesn't work because this can never wipe your opponent. Your opponent just retreats out because he can't reinforce. So I mean, I guess from a commando perspective, if you deal sufficient moral casualties, you can wipe them. But then you need the double numbers, yeah. No, actually, yeah, forget everything I just said there. If you deal good damage, but of course you'll deal less moral damage. You could do this tactic, but then without all about the kill casualties, but about the moral, everything about the morals. This same strategy, everything about the moral for the commando. But you can't you have to go for the overall winning strategy for the perspective. You can't just say this stack has these pips and these other stacks have these pips and so on and so on and these policies for these and these. So you can only specialize to a certain degree, but still. Alright, let's do it like this. I have everything I need, right? I have my policy, I have my things. Yeah, I took a moral. Oh, I have a discipline guy now. We'll put it on speed 1. 22,000, 15,000. We already see a big difference just because of the discipline, it looks like. Right? Nothing changed except the discipline advisor. And we see a massive difference. Like Jeebus. Okay. Let's write this again. Day 1. 4.42 versus 4.56 and 442. Oh, wait, I was gonna change my dices. Yeah, whatever. Oh yeah, we actually did a lot better on the kill casualties wise. Well, here 4.71, 611. I don't know, maybe there was like something that happened because of time passed, but just the discipline seems so much more effective. Yeah, this time we took. Yeah, we're still in the zombie now. We're in the zombie. Whoop. And it's already gone. Like what? What was that? Why the? What about my reserve cannons? They didn't even go to the fight. Oh my god, this is actually very important. So what happened is, that's the only explanation. Like, I had reserve cannons. They still had moral, right? Like, they still had moral. Let's check them out. They must still have moral. They must still have moral. These guys. I can't see this. Like, some of them must have no moral, and the others must have moral. But I can't, like, I can't see this. But I still have some moral left. So some of my troops must have moral left. And the troops that have moral less are the reserve divisions. They still have moral. But they never went to the fucking front. So that means that when my other units, instead of having my reserve units cannons going to the front with moral, they send in my cannons to the front. And my cannons, the one on the back line, they also have 0 moral. And he just retreat. I don't understand why he retreats. It makes no fucking sense. But we actually saw this happening multiple times lately, where you still have divisions in reserve that have moral, but they don't fucking go to the front line for some reason. They just refuse to go to the front line. It's crazy. Jesus Christ, like, fucking paradox. You discover so many bugs doing a simple test. Alright, let's try again, but without dices. Anyway, what a fucking difference. Also, 5% discipline and the reverse in terms of attacker thing. But even though, like, they actually retreated before they could reinforce. Like, they retreated at the exact time there was going to be a switch in line. So we didn't even get to see the attacker disadvantage. We didn't even get to see that. But just the fucking discipline did a big difference. Even moral-wise somehow. I don't, okay. Whatever. Whatever. Now we're gonna do it with 5? Like, holy shit. Of course, the zombie thing will be less relevant with 5 dice, because you will zombie less fast. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I took 5 more armed professionalism there. Then AI, and Yeah, the 6-6 thing. Yeah. Okay, so first go to Great Britain. Okay. Do AI. Leader 6656. And we wait it out. Go to tag Russ. Discipline guy, whatever. Can't create advisors, unfortunately. Could do the event that spawns a discipline guy to find it in files. Whatever, it doesn't matter. AI combat dice 5. Okay. This time we still took a lot more. This time we didn't retreat, somehow. This time we stayed into the fight. Defenders stayed into the fight. But they still retreat very quickly. But I think here they just lost the moral. And they got the fuck out, so... But like, yeah, even kill casualty wise, it's pretty bad. So yeah, no. See, this strategy is just terrible, Swerve. Like, not only is it bad battle wise, which like if you just do the map, it's so obvious, but like it's also like unplayable in terms of actual warfare. Like, how are you gonna have sufficient men for this? How are you going to pay for this? How are you gonna assault forts with this? Like, so to win a war, definitely not a good strategy. And also even to win a battle, I don't think it's a good strategy because it's really simple, right? You just compare. Why am I like you compare this to this, like this and this and that to this here. Then you put it on the back lines, divide by 2. You put this on the front, but this takes double kill casualties and maybe moral casualties as well. That's actually not known. We could do the math here since I have some numbers. But like, yeah, like you get 5 and something, you take double damage, even though you can further specialize and only care about a specific amount of thing. It's just not gonna be as competitive. Anyway, that concludes our test. We learned 3 things. 1, Sword is wrong. Even though on the 9 dice we kill 27k, it's actually not relevant because of 1, the zombie stuff, and because we also take too much more casualties, and we're just gonna be losing the battle, and there's not enough mercs in order to make the strategy work. So 1, he's wrong. 2, I'm right. 3, this strategy can never win you a war. 4, confirmation about the hidden defender's advantage. 5, confirmation about how the zombie mechanics work, at least a little bit. And 6, we have a bug, and it wasn't repeated in the second battle. It did not repeat, but sometimes the front line doesn't go to the fucking front line. Even though we have division. Alright, that settles this recording. Very cool. Very cool. Very